I'm a quantum physicist by education. Now I work with blind people and people who are losing their sight to try to preserve the sight. In doing so, I carry a lot of their pain with me all the time. And wherever I look, I see your teaching. Whether it's quantum physics, whether it's how the body works. And I try to convey that to my colleagues, just to try and not only focus on saving the sight, but also, even in a very small part, healing these people, helping them deal with that. However, I'm in the investment world, so I'm always faced with a lot of resistance, because it's not conducive to good business to spend too much time being too soft. And I was wondering if you can comment a little bit on how can I help the patients and also help the people who are in the business side of things.
Yes.
Thank you.
So you work in a hospital or clinic that specializes in helping people with their sight?
Actually, I'm an inventor, and I take my inventions. We have an investment firm. So we work with people not only in this country but other countries to try and find solutions to restore sight for people who have completely lost their sight, or preserve whatever sight is left for people who have things like that.
Yes. So in addition to treating the eyes, the eyesight of humans, you realize there's more that you are able to do for them. There's an additional dimension there, and there's a little bit of conflict between this. Again, we come again to the system that you work in and what you feel that you need to do to feel fulfilled and to help others in becoming more conscious, sometimes using their suffering to become more conscious.
Yes.
So is it you need to see whether you can still, it is very important for you to continue to do that, because this is why you're here. It's not just, you treat the whole human being, not just one part of the body. Are you able to still do that within the structure that you work now, or can you change it from within, or do you need to create a new structure? It's the same question as the previous questioner. I would not give up, do not compromise on what you feel you are called upon to do with other human beings, and don't compromise and say, okay, I'll just have to drop this and just treat them, do like everybody else. But see if you can still function from within the system and do what you feel you need to do. And if you can't, again, it's a question of doing it in a new way, creating something that makes it possible for you to work on both levels, on the outer level and the inner level with human beings. Thank you. That's again, this question comes up very often for many people in different ways. And many of you may find, because you represent the arising and the awakening consciousness, many of you will find that the existing structures within which you work are not able to carry the new consciousness anymore. Jesus used this funny expression, new wine in old bottles, because apparently at the time the bottles were not glass bottles, they were kind of leather bottles, and for some reason, if you put new one in, they would probably burst. So what that means is many of the existing structures social structure. That also applies to economic structures, the structures in medicine, psychiatry, psychology, education, school system, university system. Many of those structures, they were created not by the awakened consciousness. They've all been around for a long time, and they evolved out of the egoic consciousness. So many of the structures are the products of unenlightened states of consciousness. They reflect the unawakened states of consciousness. So many of you will find it necessary to step out of. Sometimes, as I said, in certain cases they can be changed from within if there are enough people within who want to change it. But many structures are too rigid for change. So it is up to you to create new structures that reflect and come together perhaps with others who are also awakening, so that the new structures will reflect your state of consciousness. So this is what the world needs. The world cannot continue to function within the old structures that are a product of unenlightened states of consciousness. The economy, the political system, even here in the States, it seems to, compared to some other places, functions quite well, but it's dysfunctional too. The economic structures, certainly, you can see how dysfunctional they are. The educational system, how children are brought up, all those things, they require new structures to reflect the arising consciousness. So that's your job to create those. And here we come to that part of manifestation, which the universe also wants. It wants you, yes, of course it wants you to go within, realize who you are in your essence, and then from there, it also wants you to create. It wants you to manifest. It will use you, it will work through you to manifest new forms, because the old forms don't work anymore. So, and it's a wonderful thing to do that. And you will see how empowered you suddenly become as you go about creating new forms, how powerful your abilities to manifest will be if they are in alignment with what the universe wants, with what the one consciousness wants. They are not little egos wanting to create something. You are in alignment with what the universe needs right now, what the awakening consciousness wants. If you then start manifesting from that deeper level within yourself, you'll be amazed how empowered you can be in your manifestation. Sometimes there is a time gap, so sometimes manifestation happens very quickly. Sometimes you need to as you are inspired, so to speak, a blueprint of what is possible, of what you, or not so much you, of what consciousness wants you to create may arise in your mind. And this mental blueprint of what you want to create, this may be there for a while. It might attract others with similar mental blueprint, and then at some point the manifestation begins. Some action may be necessary, but again, the action that you take will be inspired by the consciousness, and it will not be stressful. This is a new way of creating. If stress comes in, you're falling back into the old consciousness. This is a joyful way of creating new forms and new structures in this world. The old way is to create, while you're creating, you're stressed and angry and you're fighting others. Of course, you will encounter obstacles to that which you want to create, because the old structures, they will regard you as an enemy in some cases. And that's fine. You have no enemies. Let them regard you as an enemy, but to you, you don't attack. Another important thing, you don't attack the old structures and say how dreadfully wrong they are. Focus on the new, rather than, and especially don't attack the people who are still identified with the old structures and work within the old structures. They are just a little slower in awakening. So the important thing in the new way of creating external forms, if obstacle arise, then the obstacle can be overcome not by attacking it. Some obstacles are overcome by yielding. So let's say something is coming at you, you want to go this way and create that, and somebody says, no, you can't do that. And so sometimes you yield, here comes the obstacle, and you almost go around. Or you use this is similar to martial arts, maybe Kim knows more about that than I. Something comes at you, and the very energy of the attack can be turned around if you're not in a resistance mode against. That's vital. But yes, you will encounter obstacles, and that's part of that can only help you with deepening your resolve and deepening your connectedness to the consciousness that wants to create through you. I saw many years ago, you may not even remember, on the Oprah show, Oprah said once, I don't know how many years ago, they were talking about how the slaughterhouses, how animals are treated, and how. And Oprah said, "I'm never going to eat a hamburger again." And then she was taken to court by the Texas cattle ranchers because the moment she said, "I'm never going to eat a hamburger again," the shares of all the cattle ranching businesses plummeted. So there was a huge court case against Oprah and her company, so much so that she had to move her entire show to Texas because she had to be there every day to be in court. And she did. She moved to Texas, and then she started talking about how wonderful Texas is and how nice the people are in Texas, and they all showed this problem. People were not. She actually didn't attack anybody. She just said how great it is to be here, and people loved her suddenly being there. Not the cattle ranchers, but the others. It was a wonderful example of somebody who does not engage in fighting the other. He just cooperates with that and sees the good in the situation. And in the end, the cattle ranchers lost. So she won the case, and there wasn't a triumphant, I won the case against it was just fine. It was the natural outcome if you respond to a situation consciously without creating an enemy, although you might be seen as an enemy by them, but to you they are not. And that was a wonderful thing to watch. So there are other examples of that when handling these things consciously rather than in the old way. But so for you, see what life, as you know what I sometimes say, it's not a question of asking yourself, what do I want from life, or what do I want in life? Asking yourself, what does life want from me? Life means consciousness. Consciousness is the essence of all life. What does life want me to do? And many of you know already. It might not come up very clearly yet, but you have an inkling at least of what it is that life wants you to. And if you don't have it, then just wait a little, become still. It could take a while. Some of you may not have to do anything at all. That's fine too. Not everybody is there to create some new structures. You may remember I used the expression frequency holder for certain people who are contemplative. There are some people who are by nature quiet and withdrawn, and then they're never really interested in creating anything. They just want to emanate peace. In traditional societies, they would have lived in a monastery or in an ashram. Well, in India, ashrams are still popular. So you can go to monasteries these days are closing down because these are some may still be lovely places, but in many cases this is part of the old structures through which in the past spirituality expressed itself. Some of the most spiritual people in the West, they were not part of the hierarchy of the church. They lived in monasteries and you didn't even know them. They were simple, humble monks. Most people in the church hierarchy had huge egos and they were only interested in power. Well, to some extent it might still apply nowadays. So new forms, whether some of you might have healing centers, some may create a place like this, a retreat center for people to come to. All kinds of things, or you use your own modality of work and create a new structure through which that can express itself in this world. So wonderful opportunities and challenges lie ahead. And if you are a frequency holder, that's fine too. Get a job as a gardener and tend your plants. Or sell tickets at the toll booth of the bridge where the cars stop and say, "Thank you, have a good day." You say that 2,000-3,000 times a day, and everybody who goes past gets that, a moment of presence. So there's not one thing, not everybody is called upon to go out there and create something new. Many are, and others just... You cannot not affect others if there's a transformation of consciousness and an awakening in you. It will affect others, even if you never meet them, because underneath the surface of things, all humans are connected. There is such a thing, as I mentioned earlier, the one human consciousness, being an aspect of the one universal consciousness. So one human being going through an awakening makes it easier for many others to go through an awakening. Even if that human being never does anything particularly interesting in his or her outer life. Others go through an awakening and they will do significant and interesting and meaningful things in their outer life. But even if you don't, it will affect the totality of human consciousness. You could withdraw to an ashram or live as a hermit. You would still affect the totality of human consciousness. Your challenge then, of course, would be to stay present in the absence of challenges, major challenges. Stay absolutely present and don't... A frequency holder is at a level above thinking, somebody who is predominantly still, without being very active, predominantly still. For a frequency holder who is above thinking, the danger is that he or she may inadvertently, after a while, inadvertently fall from being above thinking to feeling below thinking. And the danger of the active person who acts from this higher level of consciousness is that he or she may become so focused on the doing, beginning to think that the doing is more important than the being behind it, and then loses touch with the being, and therefore also gets lost in doing and falls below thinking and gets trapped. What he wanted to avoid in the first place gets back into the same trap of mind. So I have seen there have been people who wanted to create a healing center, and they were not vigilant enough to observe their own states of consciousness, because there are so many things to do and to consider, and then you come together with others. We all have the same endeavor, but unfortunately they're not vigilant enough, so the ego creeps back very quickly, and then instead of creating a healing center, they create an extremely dysfunctional organization where they all hate each other. There are also churches like that, church organization. When they have their committee meetings, there's some extremely angry people, these committee meetings. They hate others. Even while they open the book and say, love your neighbor as yourself. As you know very well, when you want to create something or something wants to be created through you, the important thing is not to believe that you need to attract something from into your life. It doesn't manifest from there, it manifests from within out. So the feeling that it's already a reality in you, Jesus already said that, when you pray for something, believe that you already have it. And of course, many books that you can read on manifestation, the good ones, will also tell you that when you want to create something, you need to feel its reality already as here and now. It is already here. In a way, it is already here. And you do not postpone your feeling of accomplishment and fulfillment and the joy of this being it, that needs already to be there, because in a way it is already, on the inner level, it's already fully there. That is the secret of powerful manifestation, is to feel. How would you feel if you already had that right here and now? Oh, that's the basis for creation. That would feel wonderful. Okay, so you are feeling wonderful right now. Yes. Why are you feeling wonderful? Because I'm imagining that it's already here. Okay, that's the beginning of manifestation. That you feel it's already here. You are not looking to the thing that you want to create, expecting some kind of future fulfillment through it. So you need to manifest out of the fullness of the present moment. If you lose touch with the fullness of the present moment, which means being in touch with being, in touch with the essence of who you are, that's where all fullness arises. The fullness of life, as Jesus called it, the emptiness, as the Buddha called it. If you are in touch with that, you create from there, then the satisfaction is already here. It's not postponed to some future moment. And then you become a powerful creator, or the universe creates powerfully through you. So the manifestation is also a joyful thing. And it could be that something else wants to manifest. You might have had a vision that wasn't quite correct, and something even better comes about. That can happen also. You wanted to create a little healing center with 5 people, and suddenly you have something with 500 people.